This is Gemara Pesachim Daf Lamed Aleph. All the learning for the Chodesh of Teves has been sponsored as a Schos Ilin Nishmasa for Leila Rasha Bas Aryalib, as well as a Schos Ilin Nishama for Aryalib and Yaakov, the Nisham Shavan Aliyah. All the learning should be as Schos Ilin Nishmasam. All the Chaylam as well. Chaim Vichas ben Malki Demir ben Akiri men of Viga Chaim ben Sarch Zin Reizel Hoyer Batzkanedi Basim Chaysar Chaysar Esri Yosef ben Mindel. Eliyah the president Shavlei Shamar Bas Navim Shafik Shana Faldovini Tiri ben Nomen Chan Reizel. Liurach Bas Tavia Musa Michel Sibab Huva B'Seir Shachli Yisrael, as well as Chosiva Vayataleya Bas Ita. We pick it up on the bottom of Lamid Amid Beis. We are up to the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Nochri Shehilva Es Yisrael Al Chametzai. We're going to get involved in today with loans, a bit dine mamanis, a bit monetary laws, but of course, all they relate to chametz. So a guy that lends money to a Jew al chametz on his chametz, we'll explain what it means. After Pesach the chametz is mutar bana. If a Jew lends money to a guy on his chametz, achar Pesach aser bana. So a basic premise which the Gemara really is going to elaborate on. So let's not get too caught up in the discussion right now. But let's go with the first case of the Mishnah. The guy lends me money. I need to put up a collateral for the halva, for the loan that I get. So what do? I put my chametz up on the collateral. I give the guy my chametz. And then unfortunately I default on the loan. What happens? The guy collects the collateral, collects the chametz. So right now, says the Mishnah, the guy's going to collect the chametz. Whenever the guy collects the chametz, we're going to assume it happens from the time of the original loan, which is before Pesach. And therefore, who owned that chametz over Pesach? Not me, the guy. So it's mutar bana. So to in the flip case, when I lend the money to the guy, and the guy puts his chametz up as collateral, the guy gives me his chametz, the guy defaults, I collect his chametz. When did I collect it? Before Pesach. I own that chametz over Pesach, therefore it is aser after Pesach. That is the basic premise, and the Gemara will elaborate on this more. Itmar says the Gemara, Baal Chayv, a creditor, a Bayomer Mafreu, Gaiva, Rav Amr Kaun Labo Gaiva. Which obviously everyone understands, the first cousins, that which we just discussed and explained in the Mishnah. We explained the Mishnah on a very simplistic level, and the Mishnah, of course, will be a raya to one of these opinions eventually in the Gemara. But says the Gemara, it's machlekes when you collect. When do you collect? Do you collect lemafreya, like we just explained back from the time of the halva, that when someone defaults, therefore you're collecting the mashkain, therefore the collection goes as if it happened all the way back in the time of the loan? Or do we say mikanu labau gaiva, that no, it only goes from that moment that you collect? Says the Gemara, Kol heicha the iktish loive v'zavin loive. When the borrower goes and his makdish, he sanctifies an item, or he sells an item. Everyone agrees, moving along to Lamed Aleph and Aleph, that the malva could come and collect it, vasi malva uparik, and the malva could come and redeem it. Let's read one more line and we'll explain. That's not learned in the Mishnah. That you add on a dinar, you redeem these nachasim. Again, says the Gemara, when the loiva goes, I go and lend money to someone. He is the loiva, I am the malva. I am the person giving the money, he is the person accepting the loan. If the loiva goes, and during the time of the halva, he goes and he sells off his properties, or he goes and he's makdish, he gives his properties to the Beis HaMikdash, and then he defaults on his loan, I come to collect from him, I come to collect from his properties, I come to collect from his items. He says, oh, I gave it to Akdish, I gave it away I sold it to someone else. Of course, I could go and I could collect it. I could go and I could take it from Akdish. When I take it from Akdish, said the Gemara, Vasi Malvu Parik, and we see in the top Rashi over here, Rashi says, Min Akdish B'davar Muat, that when you're getting something from Akdish, you always have to give a little bit. Why? Because we don't want people to say that something is leaving the Rishos, the possession of Akdish, without redemption. So it's a sidebar din that whenever you take something from Akdish, you have to give something. You have to give a pruta. You have to give something to Akdish. But again, that's not the focus right now. The focus right now is that I am allowed to go and collect it, as we quote a Mishnah saying. So again, everyone agrees that when the loiva goes, the borrower goes and gives away his fields during the halva, that the malva, that the lender could go and collect it. What is this machlekes Abaye and Rav? Whether we say lemafreya, you get back from the time of the loan, or whether mikanu labah from the time that they default. When's the machlekes? The Zavin Malve, the Kaddish Malve, that the lender goes and sells something, the lender goes and sanctifies something. Abai Amar Lemafreya Ugoive, you could collect retroactively, Kivan de Matazmane, when the time comes. V'loi Pare, and the borrower does not collect. Igloi Mil, so what does it show us? Lemafreya, it shows us retroactively. Demei Kara Birshusei Avekai, that if retroactively that field is in my Rishus. What did I sell? What did I give as a collateral? What I sold, when I give as a collateral, in case that was not clear, I apologize, what I sold, what I give as hektish was the collateral. I gave all that, that's what I'm selling, that's what I'm giving as hektish. So again, says Rava, says Abai, that if the borrower goes in defaults, limafreya, retroactively, when did I own that field? When did I own that collateral? For the time of the halva. So if I, the lender, went and sold that field, gave that field to hektish, everyone agrees that's fine. Again, there was no problem me selling you, no problem giving me to hektish. That's Abaye shita. Abaye, igloi milsa limafreya. It goes back retroactively. Rav Amar, no, mikanu labo gaiva. That when I collect, when I can take that collateral, it's only going to be mikanu laba moving forwards. Given the ilu havalei zuzei hamisal zuzei. Since if the borrower had money, what would he do? He would come to you and say, "What are you doing selling that field? I didn't want you to collect from there. I wanted to give you money. I have cash. Here's your cash." So since if the borrower would have wanted, he could have given me cash. Ishtakach comes out the hashtag, and only now that the borrower doesn't give me cash, now is the moment that I'm acquiring that field, and now is the moment that I am getting that piece of land, and therefore I cannot go and sell it or give it to hektish in the interim. So says the Gemara again, the machlekes is when the lender goes, takes the field, which is meshubit, takes the field that is the collateral that is waiting to be collected from, and I go and sell it and I go and give it to hektish. Says Abayi, wonderful, the Glai Milsa we revealed retroactively that was always mine, and therefore I had all the rights in the world to sell it and give it to hektish. Says Rava, what are you talking about? If the lender, the borrower would have came, what could he have said? Cash. I lent $1,000, here's $1,000. What are you going to do selling that field? I want that field back. I don't want to give you from that field. I want to give you cash. He could have done that, right? Of course. So what's my right to go and take that field and sell it? The right is only, at the end of the date, it was a month loan. At the end of the month, he says, I don't have the $1,000. That's the moment when you get possession, says Rava. That's the moment that you can sell it and give it to Hektish. Machlekes Abaye and Rava. Says the Gemara, does Rava really say that you only acquire it from the moment that they default to end of the loan? Says as follows, a bit of a complicated case, everyone hold on. Ruvain shemachar sadr l'shim. Ruvain sells a field to Shimon ba'achrayis with a guarantee. Reuven tells Shimon, I'm selling you the field, $1,000. Shimon, if someone comes and collects that field from you, why would someone collect that field? Let's say, again, I sold the field. I'll be Reuven, that guy will be Shimon. No, actually, I don't want to say that. Reuven sells the field to Shimon. Let's keep it simple. You'll see for that a reason in a moment. Reuven sells the field to Shimon. Reuven tells Shimon, if someone comes, if one of my creditors, I owe people money, if I end up defaulting and that person comes to you, Shimon, and collects the field, don't worry, achrayis, guarantee, I'll pay you back. Okay. B'zakvin alav milva. Shimon then says, you know what, I don't have the $1,000 right now, but I want to buy the field. So let's make the sale into a halva. Let's make the sale into a loan. Shimon says, I will pay you for the field, of course, that I'm buying, but let's make it into a loan. I'll pay you over the course of time. I'll pay you in a month, etc. Now, what happens? Umeis Reuven. Now, you know, I don't want to be Reuven. Reuven dies. Reuven is niftar. V'asa balcha if the Reuven v'tar v'leim Shimon. After Reuven dies, there were people that Reuven owed money. That people come to Shimon and say, Shimon, Reuven owed us money, and we know that you have a field of Reuven's. We're collecting your field. V'asa Shimon. So what does Shimon say? Shimon says, wait, I have a great idea over here. I, Shimon, also owe Reuven money. Why? Because I never paid for this field. So says Shimon, you know what I'll do? V'asa Shimon. Ubai sebezuzeh. He tells the creditors, don't take this field. I'll pay you. I'll give you the cash. Reuven owed you $1,000. No problem. Here's the $1,000. Shimon thinking that's the $1,000 that I owe Reuven for the field. What's the halacha? Dinu, says the Gemara, the Asa b'nei Reuven, the children of Reuven, could come. Va'amar leila Shimon, and tell Shimon, who Shimon seemingly was just a tzaddik. Shimon seemingly went to the creditor and gave him $1,000 cash, helping out seemingly the estate of Ruvain. The children say, you didn't help us out. Anan mitaltali shavak. Our father left us over cash, meaning the halva, that which you, Shimon, owed our pops, that was cash. Money in the bank. We want that cash. And what's halacha? Anan metalti shavak, and our father gavach. Umetaltli diyasmi, and the metaltlin of Yisaimim, the Baal Chayv, the top line. Lo imishabdi. The halacha is that whenever the Yisaimim, the children, get cash from their father, that cash, that movable property, metaltalin, is not mishubit, is not incumbent to any loan. So says the children to Shimon, what are you doing? That $1,000 was to us. What are you going doing and paying that to the creditors? That was not incumbent, that was not mishubit to the creditors. Say the children, I'm sorry, Shimon, that you paid that Baal Chayv. You still owe us $1,000. Pay up. Shimon didn't have to now say, what am I going to do? Shimon has to pay again. However, says the Gemara of Amar Rava, apologies. One more time, back to that top line. Amar Rava says Rava. Shimon. If Shimon is smart, what's Shimon going to do? Shimon's going to go and give that field, that piece of land, he'll give that to the kids. He'll say to the kids, you want me to pay you $1,000? No problem. Here's a field worth $1,000. And then you know what Shimon's going to say? By the way, that field, there was a chrayis, there was a guarantee on that field. Give me back the field. The field's mine. And then Shimon will gain that he won't have to pay the extra $1,000. He'll get away with the $1,000, not get away, but he'll have that the $1,000 he paid to the creditors will stand. End of story. Says the Gemara, how do we know that? Rav Nachman teaches us, if Yisayimim, the children, collect land for the debt of their father, like this case, if Shimon were to go and give the land to the children for the debt of their father, Baal Chayv is allowed to go and collect it. And therefore, ostensibly, what's going to happen is that Shimon's going to be able to give it to the kids and then say, okay, that works for the Baal Chayv, and then I'm going to go take it back from you. End of story. Now says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me that Abaye holds that any time you pay something up, anytime you take the collateral, anytime something is mishubit, something is incumbent, something is tied together with a loan, there's a lien on a property. Anytime when you collect, we view it as if it's lima freya back at the time of the halva, then very good. Then it's beautiful. Then Shimon could say, here's this field. If it was owned by your father back at the time of the loan, and now I have a chrayis, I can get that field back. I have a guarantee. Why? Because it's as if it was collected in the lifetime of the father while the fathers are alive, and I can take it back. So if it's according to Abaye, everything is very good. Ella says the Gemara, if Rav is of the opinion, and again Rav was the one that said over here on the second line, as you see over here, that if the Shimon is a pikech, if Shimon is smart, he's able to give this field back and it'll work. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. If Rav holds like we thought, that when you give the field, it's only from this moment and further. Why could Shimon then go and take that field back from the kids? It says if the children just went and bought a field. If the kids go and buy property, that's nothing to do with the creditor. The kids bought a piece of land right now. So the kids got this piece of land today. What does it have to do with the debt that their father owed this guy 20 years ago? So therefore, says the Gemara, it cannot be the Rava hold, it cannot be the Rava hold that from the moment the lien is collected, that is when there's considered an acquisition. Because if that was true, then there's no way that Shimon could go and collect it back. And Rava in this price clearly says that if Shimon was smart, he could go and give back the field and then collect from that field. Says the Gemara, nothing doing. Shiny Hasan, that case is different. Amar Lohuk, say to him, a very important rule in all of monetary dealings. Shimon can tell the kids, listen, just like I was mishubit to your father was mishubit to me. Tavuchan midra nasan. Like Rav Nasan will explain in a moment. The Tanya Rav Nasan, I'm a very famous din. How do we know that if one person owes his friend mana $100, the chaver b'chaver, and the friend owes another friend, shometzim he's having nice and that one can take from the other. That you give to the one that is owed to him, and therefore says the Gemara as follows: Reuven owes Shimon, Shimon owes Levi, Levi owes Yehuda, etc., etc. Could Yehuda go to Reuven and say, Reuven, give me money? Reuven says, Yehuda, who are you? We never spoke. Yehuda says, well, listen, Reuven, you owe money to Shimon. Shimon owes to Levi, Levi owes to Yehuda. So I'm owed by Levi, who's owed by Shimon, who owed by you. So why make this whole trade? Let's just give me the cash. Is Yehuda allowed to do that? Is Levi allowed to do that? The answer is yes. Din of Rav Nasan, minayin l'asher asham loy, v'nasan l'asher asham loy. You're allowed to go directly to the source. So that's the reason why in this case it's going to work by Shimon. Says the Gemara again. It's not because the field is viewed as if the father acquired it way back when. Mikat l'mafreya, retroactively. It's as if the father always owned this field, and that's why Shimon could go and collect it back from the kids. No. Says the Gemara, you know why? Because just like Shimon owes Reuven money for the field, Reuven who's now dead, Reuven owes Shimon because the field was a chrayas. So just like we know that when Reuven owes Shimon and owes Levi, Levi go directly to Reuven. Reuven over here can tell the kids, just like I owed your father owed me, here's the field and I'll collect it back from him. Says the Gemara, no raya, no question on the opinion of Rava. Says the Gemara Tanan, let's try again another potential question on Rava. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. A guy lends money. This should sound familiar. This was our Mishnah. A guy lends money to a Jew on his chametz. Says the Gemara, as we explained the Mishnah, if you're going to tell me that that it works retroactively, the guy lent me money, I give the guy my chametz. Now we're going to say that when I default, the guy collects my chametz, and that's retroactive to the time of the alva, to the time of the loan, which is before Pesach. It makes a lot of sense. Makes sense why it's mutabana, because the guy owned it over Pesach. If you're going to tell me if you're going to tell me no, then how does this work? So the way that it works is for the moment of collection and further. Why is it going to be allowed? It was in my Rishos the whole Pesach because he only collected it when I defaulted after Pesach. Says the Gemara, seemingly a raya to the opinion of Abaye. Answers Mara, which you all understand the answer. I'm sorry, we don't understand this. The case he's talking about where I gave over the chametz him before Yantiv, I deposited by him, and that's the reason why it's considered as if it's in his rishos. Says the Mara, don't bring me a raya from the Mishnah, because the case over there was that I deposited by the guy, and that's the reason why it's considered it's in the guy's rishos, and that's why it's mutar b'ana. Says the Mara, okay, fine, very good. Let's continue. Let's say this machlekes Abaye Rav, whether it's retroactive, whether it's from the time of collection, is the machlekes Tanaim. Again, back to our Mishnah. Yisrael shel b'lenachri chametz. A Jew lends money to a guy in his chametz lachar Pesach was halacha einoi over. You're not over. I'm sorry, not our Mishnah, but a very similar case. After Pesach, you're not over. Misham Rameir Amru over. You're yes over. My love, I'll come with you. What's the machlekes whether I am over in this case? Again, the case is a Jew lends money to a guy, and the guy gives me his chametz as collateral. The guy gives me his chametz as a shibud, as a lien. The mar savil l'mafreya gaiva. One man damer hold it's l'mafreya. Therefore, it's viewed as if I have the chametz the whole time. Omar savil l'gam l'labo gaiva. Says the Gemara, this is the machlekes. Answers the Gemara, no way. V'tizbra, is that possible to say what you just said? Ema Seifa, what did the end of that brisa say? The flip case, like the end of our Mishnah. Avol nachri shavli Yisrael al chametzai. If the guy lends money to the Jew and the Jew gives the guy the chametz, lachar Pesach divrei hakol oiver. After Pesach, everyone agrees he's oiver. How could that be? It should have been the opposite. Why is it true that when the guy lends the Jew money, the Jew gives the guy the chametz? Everyone agrees that what? It's considered that the Jew had chametz over Pesach. If what you just told me a moment ago that there's a machlekes, whether mikanu laba or lemafreya, Rav and Abaye is machlekes tanaim, whether it's retroactive, whether it's for the moment of payment, leman damer according to man damer hasam, ein oiver hachayver. According to man damer says over there you're not over, here you has to be over, because again it's the flip side case. Man damer hasam oiver hacham ein oiver. Says the Gemara, this is the seifa. It's exactly the flip, so it should be a flip in halacha, and yet we don't see that way. So answers the Gemara. Moving along from Alpha Beis, Elo, what are you going to tell me? Allah Mayaskinan. That the case is talking about that you give it as a deposit by him. Give it as a deposit by him, and that's the reason why the case is going to be different. So now we still have to explain why in the Seifa. What was the case of the Seifa one more time? The Seifa was where the guy lent the Jew the money, and the Jew gave the guy his chametz. Why in that case is everyone agreeing that the Jew is yes over? Says the Gemara, What's Rav Yitzchak? Menayim the Baal Chayv Shekenim Mashkain. How do we know that a Baal Chayv collects the collateral? Shenemar, the pasuk teaches us, Ulachati at stock, and you should be righteousness. What's the righteousness? Mika will explain it 1 second. This is the pasuk that when someone you lend someone money, and that person gives you his pillow, his blanket, his towel, his clothing, his pajamas as collateral. Says the Torah, give it back to him every night. Ulachot yet staka. And to you, the malva, it's a staka. It's a righteous thing you're doing. Says the Gemara, if you're going to tell me that I, the malva, I made an acquisition on his pajamas, on his pillow, on his blanket, then it's a beautiful thing. It's a tzedakah that I'm giving it back to him every night. But if I never made an acquisition on it, what's the tzedakah? Very good. So says the Gemara, for the first time it holds, Yisrael, when one Jew borrows from another Jew, we understand, be a good Jew, give him back his items to go to sleep. But Yisrael from a guy, what are you doing? You don't have to give it back to him, and therefore there's no kinyan, and that's the reason why you will not be over on chametz when the guy gives it to you as his mashkin, as the lien. Rav Meir says, don't view it as what's nicer, lending from a Jew, lending from a guy, etc. Says Rav Meir, no, what's easier to make an acquisition? If I even acquire the collateral of a Jew, certainly of a guy. Avol, but says our mayor, says that everyone agrees, says the sefer of the Brisa on the bottom of Amid Aleph. Nachri, when it came to a guy, Shehil Vaz Yisrael, they gave me the Jew the money. Al Chametzai, and I gave my chametz to the guy. Achar Pesach Divrei Hakol Oiver. Everyone agrees it's Oiver. Why? Hasavadai Nachri Yisrael Loikani. The guy certainly is not going to be kind of from me, and therefore everyone's going to agree in that case that even though I gave my chametz to the guy, at the end of the day it was my chametz, and that's the reason why I will potentially be over on Pesach. So Gemara tried to prove it's machlekes Tanaim, and the Gemara deflected that proof. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, says the Gemara, Nachri shel vayis Yisrael. And if you look at Rashi directly across the Nachri Shelve, both Sivna L'Rav L'el. We're asking another question on Rava. Vishaninu, and what do we answer? Visharenu Eslay. We asked the question on Rava. Rava who said Mekan Laba. What do we answer? The teretz was that no, you gave it to him in his possession. Va'amrit Hashta. Now the Rashi speaking out what the question the Gemara is about to be. We just said a moment ago that a guy is not kind of from a Yisrael. So what's going on over here? Let's see. Says Gemara Tanan. Nachri Shelve Yisrael. This was one of the cases of our Mishnah. This was the first case in the Mishnah that the Nachri that lent money to the Jew, and the Jew gave the guy his chametz. What do we say in the Mishnah? Pesach mutter bana. We said it's mutter. We said it's considered as if the guy owns it. Very good. You can tell me what's the case that you, the Jew, gave your chametz and placed it in the possession of the guy. We just said a second ago, we just said the guy is not kind of from the Jew. So why are you telling me that you're not over about your other? The guy doesn't make a kinyan from the Jew. Answers the Gemara like when you said me'achshav, that in the event that I default, you're going to be making an acquisition on this item me'achshav from now, then who's going to own it? The guy. Because then it's going to be Lema Freya. Because then I said Me'achshav from now. If you didn't say Me'achshav, then it will be Mekan Labah from the moment that you default. Says the Gemara, where do we know the substance differentiation? Down to the Brisa. No, here in the passport Yisrael guy that puts into the possession of a Jew a loaf of bread of a certain baker, of a certain type of oven. Ain't over, the Jew's not over. He got ticha over. But if he said he got ticha, it's coming to you, then he is over. Maishna Reisha, Maishna Seifa. Elalav says the wording he got dicha is similar to me'achshav. The event I don't play, you acquire it from now. Shema Mina, and that's the proof that there will be a difference if he said me'achshav or not. It says the Gemara, and that is at the end of the day how we answering up the Mishnah. How in the first part of the Mishnah it said if a guy lends me money and I give the guy mechametz and I default, I am not over. It's considered as if the guy owns it. The Gemara now is answering not just b'sharhenu, not just because I gave the guy the chametz, because I said me'achshav. Why? Because if not, the guy doesn't have a kinyan. Tan Rabbanan with one not random, with one brisa before we finish the Mishnah. Chanusha Yisrael and Malaysia Yisrael. We have a store of a Jew and merchandise of a Jew. Poli Nachum, and the workers are Goyim. Nichlasiv Sham that enter there. Chamit Shnimsa Sham. Then you find a piece of bread on the floor. What's the status of the bread? Achar Pesach. Oser Behano. We assume it came from what? Either the store owner or his merchandise, and not from the workers. Vein Zarch Leimer Ba'achila, and certainly Zaz Ba'achila. However, in the flip side case, Chanusha Nachri, the store of a Goyim, Malaysia Nachri, and the merchandise owned by a guy. But Upaili Yisrael Nechnatzav Yosef Sham, and they're Jewish workers. Chametz Shnimsa Sham Achar Pesach Mutter B'Achila. Why is it allowed? So again, we assume it came either from the store or from the merchandise, but not from the workers. Let's see one more quick Mishnah. Chametz Shnavalav Ma'Poilas. If a chametz that a wall fell in it, that should sound familiar all the way back from the beginning of the Mishnah, as if it's destroyed. Rav Shimon Gamliel Leimer says of Shimon Gamliel, Kol she'ein kelev yachal lechabeis achrov, only if a dog can't get it. Says Gemara Rav Chisda, V'sar sheibat libai. Don't forget, you always have to do bittul. Tanu learned in the Mishnah, how far could a dog dig down that we say that the dog can't get it? Shleish tefachim is 3 tefachim. So I'm there. Rav Yisrael Rav Ashi. Oh, Damar Shmuel, that which Shmuel said, Ksafim Eilem Shmira. Money, there's no way to watch money. Elo big character. It's time for burying him. Even in Shleish tefachim alai. Do you also have to bury the money 3 tefachim like we have to have the chametz bury 3 tefachim of the dog? Amar lei achim shamrecha binan. Shleish tefachim over here. They were afraid the dog's going to smell it. Has to be 3 tefachim under. Hasim shabachsuyim meino. They just want it to be covered. When it comes to burying your money to save it, 1 tefach is enough. It comes to your chametz being buried in the maboilas and the fallen wall to be enough, the dog can't get it. How far is that? 3 tefachim.